start today by quoting some words of Jesus that he spoke 2,000 years ago to a group on a hillside. But I really think by extension, he was talking to you and me today. He was talking to this church today. This is what he said in the greatest sermon ever delivered, the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5, where he said, "You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and then put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven." What did Jesus mean by those words? What was he telling us, who are those of us who are followers of Jesus? I think he was saying, I want you to live kind of a salty life. In other words, a life that makes people thirst for God. I want you to live the kind of a life that shines my love and grace and compassion and forgiveness into dark areas of despair. And the question I want to raise today is, how do we do that in the 21st century? What does that look like today? As I thought about that and prayed about that, I thought, well, what if Jesus physically lived in my house? I mean, if he were right there living in our house, what would I learn about the way he would reach out to the neighbors, to the community, to people, strangers he would encounter, and so what would I learn from the Master? As I studied the life of Jesus, I saw so much that I learned. And we could talk about today. I'm gonna focus down, though, on two things that I think Jesus would teach us all. Because there are two things that he modeled. And they're summed up by two words: love and truth. Love and truth. Jesus modeled love and truth. Scripture says in 1 John 3 verse 18, "Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth." Love and truth. I think of the many things I'd learned about Jesus, from Jesus if he physically lived in my house. One of the things I'd learned is this: Jesus would put his love into concrete action. In other words, he wouldn't just share his faith, he would show his faith by how he loved others. Because talk is cheap. I mean, honestly, talk is cheap. Jesus did not just say that he loved the world. What did he do? He became a servant. And he served. He served the blind by restoring their sight. He served the lepers by restoring their health. He served the people at the wedding of Cana by turning water into wine. And then in the greatest act of servanthood in the history of the universe, he gave his life as a ransom. And Jesus calls on us as his followers to serve other people, to put the love of God into action as we serve other people. He said in Matthew 25, verse 40, "Whatever you do for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you do for me." So we're to serve those who are homeless and those who are forgotten and those who are discarded by society, the widows, the orphans, the strangers, and so on. I think Jesus, if he physically lived in my house, he would sort of have a compassion radar that would just be scanning the neighborhood, the life as he walked through the world, just this compassion radar, looking for opportunities, looking for ways that he can serve. Because when we do that, when we serve other people and put the love of God into action, you know what? It changes us. It changes them. But you know what else it does? It changes the entire community. It really does. Where I live out in Colorado, there's a city there by the name of Arvada, Colorado. And, you know, it's like a lot of cities. It's got its issues. It's got its rough spots. It's got its difficulties and troubles. And so not long ago, a group of pastors from that community got together and they went to the mayor. And they said, "Mayor, we kind of represent most of the churches here in Arvada. What can we do to best serve this city? if there's one thing that our church could do to make a difference in this community and transform it, what would it be? And this is what the mayor said. He said, there are a lot of issues that face our community, but the majority of those issues could be drastically reduced if we would just become a community of good neighbors. That's it. If the people of God, of this community, determine we're just going to be good neighbors, it'll transform everything. You think of this area and all the churches in this community. If we all committed to saying, we're going to put the love of God into action in the neighborhood in which we live, what a transformation that would make. And I say that as someone who needs to learn and grow more in this area. Because, I write books, and so I write them and they go out, and that's my ministry. That's what I do. But I'm also a neighbor. I live in a little community. And I know some folks down the block. But would they say I'm a good neighbor?